Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of 2-Minute Tech Tuesdays. My name is Thijs, I'm the technical evangelist at Varnish Software, and in this week's episode we'll talk about VMOD ActiveDNS. And it's actually a follow-up of last week's video about UDO, which was the Unified Director Object. There is a clear link between both VMODs and I'll talk you through it right now. I'll put 2 minutes on the timer. Let's go. ActiveDNS is a Varnish Enterprise VMOD that performs DNS updates at runtime. It circumvents a big limitation in Varnish that host names are only resolved once when the VCL file is compiled. VMOD ActiveDNS does this at runtime for compatible VMODs, such as VMOD UDO. It works in the background and performs DNS resolutions with set intervals. When changes occur, subscribed directors are signaled and new backends can be added or removed dynamically. A records, quad A records and SRV records are supported. Here's some VCL code where we use ActiveDNS. First we import the VMOD, and then we initialize it by creating a new DNS group. We assign a hostname to that group, which is the hostname that will be resolved on set intervals. We can extract information from the DNS group by creating a monitor and subscribing to the DNS group. By calling monitor.get_new_info, we can extract information from that DNS group. The output contains a socket address type, which is IPv4 in this case, a socket address, which is a regular IPv4 IP address, a port, a priority, and a weight. This information comes from DNS records such as A records, and when multiple results are returned, this information is used for dynamic load balancing. This also applies to SRV records, where besides the target hostname, the port is also part of the record value. And you can clearly see that the monitor output reflects the multiple hostnames. You can use all that information to perform dynamic load balancing using VMOD UDO. When we look at the VCL code to get this done, we first need to import the UDO VMOD. We need to create an empty backend, and then create a UDO director object, assign a distribution type, and then subscribe to the DNS group, which will get updated once DNS changes apply. And in the end, it's just a matter of assigning the backend by calling the UDO director's backend function. The DNS update frequency comes from the TTL value of the DNS record. But we can override this by setting our own TTL rule and switching it from the default value, which is a byte, to force, which means where the DNS update interval was initially an hour, now it is 5 seconds. And that was this week's episode about ActiveDNS. Please have a look at last week's episode about UDO, because UDO and ActiveDNS are really powerful combo. My personal preference also goes out to using SRV records because it gives you the flexibility to set your backend host and your port from within the DNS record. And it also supports weights, which allow you to do weighted randomness and weighted hashing. Thank you for watching it. I'll see you next time with yet another video and more content presented to you in 2 minutes or less.